NBA Phoenix Fitness 24/7 basketball facility in Rockland, California. It's Bout That Life podcast with your host, Coach C.Collins and Coach MJ.
Get it started. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Hey, how you doing? It's Coach C.Collins.
Coach MJ, GGT.
And welcome to About That Life podcast, where we talk a little bit of AAU basketball, life, NBA, and everything in between. Once again, thank you for those who've been checking us out. Thank you who've been supporting from the beginning. We really appreciate you big time on the audio side. Obviously, we're always trying to grow the YouTube side. If you're here and you're checking us out, why don't you go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. One small click for you is a big help to us. Help me and Mark out with the algorithm. We appreciate it a lot. Before we get into our guests and everything else, got to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors. Thank you to Dr. Dish for all you guys have been doing for the show. Best shooting machine on the market. They got a home version. They got the Rebel, the All-Star. If you're looking to enhance your game, I suggest you give them a call. Tell them About That Life podcast sent you. Links for all that will be in the description. Also, if you're looking for basketball tournaments, go to Hardwood Palace or Courtside Basketball located in Rockland, California, where our studio is. They have very consistent rec programs, AAU programs, and they're definitely people you want to check out if you're looking to start your AAU team. So with all that being said, let's get to our guest. This man, I've just met him, but overall his story is pretty amazing. We're going to get into all that. He just had a documentary done with him. He has a podcast currently right now, right, Greg? I'll just make sure I get everything right. Correct me if I'm wrong with anything. Prior to that, he essentially was, well, like they say, Lebron before LeBron, right? And on top of that, he created his buzz in a pre-social media world, pre-internet world. So to get to the stage that and abilities and things that he was able to get to without that social media platform is actually very amazing. So for you young kids who check the show out or who listen, you got to pay respect for those who came before you. I know you guys think it's all about you right now, but there was some people that hooped before y'all, just to throw that out there. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest, Vernon Shea Cotton.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Welcome to the show.
Appreciate you.
So I want to do a quick rundown for those who might not know, right, of your basketball background and accolades, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on anything. It's your life. You know it better than mine. So just let me know. They definitely, I remember, because I graduated in 01, so I think we're pretty close in age. And Mark's from SoCal, so he's definitely
I'm from Orange County, so
yeah.
I know who you are.
Yeah,
Okay.
and from my background, I heard about you, but I know, at that time, I want to say during the time of your rise in NorCal, we kind of in Oakland, we had like DeMarshe Johnson and Leon Poe and some of those guys who were on the rise, so they got a buzz. But I heard your name, but I just didn't know who you are. So right. Funny how it works full circle, and here you are. But let's talk about, what you did as far as your accolades out there. Said Cal High Sports hailed you arguably the best youth player in California. That was from 2014. Sophomore year, you were at Mater Dei, right? Mater Dei High School. Yep. Averaged 24 points and 10 rebounds, and you led your school to a record of 36-1.
Correct.
Nice. Very congratulations
That was
on
your
that.
sophomore year?
I had freshman and sophomore year.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
We lost, I think, 2 games in 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. Well, that's tough. As I said, you were voted All Southern Section Division I Player of the Year and named All Southern Section Division I Team for the second straight year. Okay. Right. It says also you were the first and only sophomore to be named Cal High Sports Division I State Player of the Year.
Correct.
Big time.
Man, very cool. We'll fast forward through kind of some of the college stuff and talk about some of your pro stuff before we delve more into the college stuff. Says you played professionally for about 10 years overseas.
Yes.
Right? It says you went to countries, and in case people are wondering, like I'm talking about this stuff I got off the internet. So where you went to Serbia. Also, you played with Vlade Divac?
On his team that he owned, the KK Partizan.
Nice. Very cool. the Shanghai Sharks. Isn't that Yao Ming's?
That's the team he was playing for that before he got drafted. So I actually got a chance to meet him.
CBA?
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice, man. And then 2000 you played in the ABA for
Correct.
the Long Beach Jam.
Long Beach Jam. We won a title. Dennis Rodman's on the team. We had,
Nice,
4 or 5
man.
other NBA guys. So it was
That's
great.
cool. That's very cool. And then it's also said you toured with the Harlem Globetrotters.
Correct.
Nice. One of my point guard in my old college ended up becoming a Globetrotter. His name's Patrick Flip Atkins. So
Okay.
it was cool kind of seeing his journey too. And then everything says you've been to France, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Mexico, right?
Yep.
It's all pretty accurate.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Played in Italy, a little bit in Greece.
well, nice. Said you've been a journeyman.
That's it. That's it.
Overall, with that experience of overseas, and just you give a brief synopsis on that, because for my show, I have a lot of kids who listen, right? A lot of aspiring athletes, kids that are like, oh, I want to play pro, and they don't, they don't know how hard that to bridge that gap is. You know what I'm saying? But in your journeyman years, what was your overall take from that?
Just the experience. I think the most important piece is when you go to a foreign country, being able to settle in. You're dealing with a language barrier, you're dealing with the culture shock, you're dealing with the cuisine adjustment, and just the landscape, like the visual, what it looks like. Nothing in Europe looks like anything in America. So no matter where you are, what country you go to, it's going to be an adjustment. And I tell people, when you go to overseas to play, it's going to take about 2 weeks to start to settle in, and and it's really more of a state of mind, and I think your energy, like you have to relax and settle in. You're pressing, trying to impress when you first get there. You want to be in shape, so you're trying to finish every play and make every shot, indirectly, because you want to make a good impression. But they're looking at the long haul. You're practicing twice a day, so you don't have to kill them in the first session. But they want to see consistency. They want to see if you're in shape right off the bat. Like, the European game is much different because they don't do like we do here. In the NBA, they let you come in, you fly in, they let you get acclimated a few days and just kind of bring you in slowly. Overseas, when you're American, they want Jordan for $100 grand.
Right.
So you coming in off a 16-hour flight, and you might have a game that night.
Oh, okay.
But they won't tell you. So you got to be ready.
I like that word that you use, because that's something we preach. I coached a lot, and that's something I preach to my kids all the time, is consistency.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I don't think enough athletes know the power of that ability, right? To be able to sustain something continuously, night in, night out, whether you got a pain in your back, or whether you're dealing with, life issues, or whether you got banged up in practice. I mean, you still have to, put those numbers up, you know what I mean? And that's what I try to tell the kids. If you can't, I don't want to say you can master consistency, because you always going to have a bad game. You always just going to have a rough night. But if you can mitigate it as best as possible, you give yourself the highest shot.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm glad to hear from.
One of the things I kind of wanted to pick up on what you were saying, I played in Southeast Asia for 4 years, is I've seen players, Americans, who come off the plane and drop 30 and still get sent home because their attitude or how they treat their teammates of the foreign land or the coaches, and just kind of want to get your take from that, like knowing that sometimes it's not even just about numbers. If you don't fit in with the culture, if you don't embrace it, they're going to send your ass home.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's when you're in Rome, you do like the Romans, and I tell people, like, you get more bees with honey. I think being a team guy goes a long way. With talent, you can get job security, but just a guy that's coming in to score buckets and you think it's all about that, you'll be gone fast when you get there.
Yeah, no, and that's good. I'm glad you said that. Well, I want to get to my first. Well, that's one of my first questions, but I want to get to my other question. I wanted to talk to you about AAU basketball. Just kind of wanted to pick your brain and your perspective on that, because are you staying in SoCal right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you seen the AAU circuits and stuff? I'm just saying, you're out here, it's heavy everywhere, but in SoCal, it's a different animal out there. I mean, you got your major, in my opinion, from what I assess, is the most major program as far as sheer size out there is West Coast Elite. And then, you have your Compton Magics, you have,
Truth.
Yeah, exactly. The Truth.
Cal
like
Supreme.
you have, man, it's competitive, I always ask my guests this, because we mainly are obviously a show geared towards AAU and teaching the youth and trying to inform parents and stuff. And it's changed so much from when I played. I'm pretty sure from when you played. It's just evolved, and it's a good and a bad, and give or take. But what is your overall assessment? What's the good you see from it? What's the bad you see from it?
The good I see from it, guys are a lot more skilled today. They have a lot more resources to become better athletes. I feel like, with that being said, it has taken away from the hunger of the player that you used to see, because I think everything's so available with social media and all the opportunities with Google and YouTube. Everybody thinks it's going to be like a microwave experience. Basketball is a process, just like life is. You know, I tell people, like, Jordan lost for 6 years in Chicago before he won it. He dropped 40 a game. So he had to have pieces around him to support him with his scoring to start winning titles. So when you're developing in the AAU circuit, what I'm seeing is a lot of kids that have this sense of self-entitlement. They're not really willing to put the work in, but they want the reward.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
And you have a lot of, like, watered-down basketball.
No, absolutely. And parents, I hope you heard that, because you guys are part of that mistake sometimes. So, no, I'm glad to hear you say that. Well, you just came back from the showing of your documentary at Grant High School, right?
Yes.
How was that overall?
Went well. Numbers were a little down from what we were expecting, but
probably because we have a storm today. That didn't help, man.
Yeah, and you know, there's always going to be adversity, right? Like, that's life too. Like, when you really want something bad enough, it doesn't matter what adversity you're going to face. You're going to get through it, you know, go through it to get to it. And it went well. It was the majority of student athletes, which is why we wanted to do this. The Man-Child Grassroots Tour we're doing now, we're looking to extend. We've got a couple dates locked in L.A. when we get back, college as well as high school. So we're looking to extend Northern California schools, private schools, you know, regular public schools, as well as colleges.
And for all those who are listening, or, you know, more than likely going to be watching this after this is recorded, links to a lot of all your information and stuff, I'm going to have that in the description so people can check it out themselves, so they can see, you know, you and really promote you out there.
Absolutely.
When well, obviously you've seen the documentary, you obviously got to pick and choose, and you had your life analyzed. I mean, that's got to be, you know, a pretty tough thing, because of course you see the highs and but then you see the lows, right? For sure. And it's hard to have someone dissect your life, because we all dumb shit or made bad decisions when we were young. Like, it happens, right? You know, but when someone watches this, I haven't seen it yet. I actually wanted to wait till I met you to watch it, because I think it would give me a better perspective. What is it, the takeaway you want people to have from it?
Wow. In a nutshell, I think the takeaway from watching the Man-Child documentary is, you know, you're witnessing, you're experiencing something that's authentic in its rarest form, pre-social media, like you mentioned. I was the biggest thing next to Magic Johnson in L.A. You know, quite frankly, I had a Nike deal without the money.
He had mentioned to me, sorry not to cut you, he had mentioned to me that
you played against Kobe.
You played against Kobe and all that stuff. So, like, big
rest
ups,
in peace.
man.
Yeah, rest in peace to Kobe. You know, the day we played against each other, I was better. And, you know, the guy that kind of brought him to L.A., his right-hand guy, Latel Vaughn, is in the documentary. He's speaking on that. He was actually at the game. So I don't just say that. Like, I'm not a guy that, let me attack a guy that everybody knows type of person. Right. You know, I mean, he's the only one that matched that prowess that I possessed, and, you know, that fervor and that tenacity, and next to him would be Metta World Peace. But to circle back on the question, I think for me with the documentary, we just want kids to know, look, I was the best thing there was, and I missed. So if it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. And understand that I did everything the right way. I showed up, stayed late, put the extra time in, and I was better than my peers, and it didn't work out on the court. Now, the flip side to that is you can't really say it's a failure when I'm blessed to have this platform now.
True.
And we have a timeless piece. I mean, the film was released in 2016. LA Film Festival ranked the top 5 out of 4,200 films.
Nice.
And here we are today, almost 5 years later, with distribution we just received in about a year. I think it's been out with 1091 Pictures out of New York. So we're really excited. Rotten Tomatoes is giving us 5 stars right now, which is unheard of.
As I was researching you, and ran across that, because I didn't realize the documentary had been out that long and things like that. No, it's gotten a lot of positive reviews. I've heard it's won a few awards at some festivals and things like that. So very much congratulations, man. Because I can't imagine what it's like. I mean, we all in some piece or shape or form. If you have social media, you're putting your life out there, period.
Right.
But like you literally were willing to say, hey, look, let me show you an example of what can happen. You know what I mean? And so I give you a lot of credit for that, man, because that's just not something that anybody's always willing to do.
Right.
You got anything on that, Mark?
No. Well, actually, one question I did want to ask was, like, going through that process, because again, you know, like me, I'm from Southern California, and you know, even though I'm a little younger, like I kind of remember, I'm from Buena Park, so I don't know if you know where Buena Park is. And one of the things I did want to ask you was, during that high school, you know, all that hype and everything else like that, what was going through your mind as a freshman, sophomore, as you were getting all these accolades, and at the same time, like you said, you know, these shoe companies were coming at you, and of course you're more mature, more wiser now, but during those, especially those first 2 years, because I know, like, you got injured your junior or senior year?
Junior year, yeah.
Yeah, your junior year. So from your freshman to sophomore year, where were you mentally at that stage of your life?
I would probably say I was operating at an optimal level, and I knew that I had arrived. You know, Sports Illustrated did the story in 15 as a freshman. Viva Brazil, you know, on that cover of that one when they won, and I was training against college guys and pros at that time, so I wasn't surprised what was going on. I was more like, my mind is set on the league, man. I just want to be able to lay in that bed on the road and put on my jersey and say I made it. You know, that was the goal. I had I had this vision, and then I focused on, okay, what's my plan? All right, now I have to write it down. I got to attack it, and then I have to execute it. So it was like setting goals every week. Every game I played, I analyzed it that same night. I watched the film. You know, and that's something today that's lacking. Even kids in AAU circuit, they need to watch film. They need to watch more basketball, study tendencies, and look at things that happen on the floor without the basketball on both sides of the court. You know, guys just looking at one side of the floor because you're watching Stephen Curry shoot the ball, but they don't see him making those 1,000 shots a day. They don't see him in the gym making 1,000 shots, not taking. You know what I mean? So when I tell kids that, they're like, really? He shoots and he makes 1,000 a day. So imagine how long it took when he first started. But I guarantee you now he probably breezes through it. Quick. And you see where he is in the game today.
Absolutely. Well, and that's good because I want to talk more about kind of that NBA side of things, because in your documentary, and correct me if I'm wrong because I haven't seen it yet, but in your documentary, some NBA players speak about who you were and your legacy and things like that. Do you still, I mean, well, this is kind of a two-part question. Do you still have relationships with some of those guys?
I do. Yeah, we still talk. I communicate with a lot of guys through social media and, you know, in the streets when I see them. Okay,
nice. And then, like, how, reflecting on you, I mean, you, at the end of the day, we all ball players in here. We all played basketball. You know, there's a brotherhood of respect there, right? But how does it feel circling back and having these guys speaking about you and speaking on your behalf and just who you are as a player? How did that affect you or make you feel about it?
It was comforting. Somebody asked me a question similar to that today in the Q&A for the screening. It was comforting, you know, to get the reception from them, you know, kind of like an acknowledgement in a way, like a stamp, I guess, for this generation.
Right.
You know, everybody in our generation already knew, saw or heard or read. So it was more about, that was nice, but kind of disappointed because I'm like, man, these guys are my peers. They got the bag I didn't at that time. And I'm saying to myself, why won't somebody just step up and get behind what I'm doing with these kids and make a contribution financially to help change some of these narratives with our kids? That's the unfortunate part that I haven't seen. But you know, I was thankful for the acknowledgement, but I've taken my life in a different direction. When it didn't work, I walked away from the game for a minute. And then God was like, "Nah, I'm not done with you yet." So I came back, put a strategy together. So, you know, what can I do to impact lives better than what I did when I played? That would have sustainability. And you know, the Man Child documentary was created right around the time that I retired at 30 years old.
Very cool, man. So at the height of what you feel your success is, and you know your path, whether it be you know, while you were playing overseas or in high school or whatever, where you feel you were at your pinnacle as an athlete, as a basketball player. Describe what that felt like. I mean, because again, I was a pretty good player, but I wasn't on your. I'll be straight honest, wasn't on your level. I happened to be I was at Oakland Tech, so during my time there, I had a star-studded team. We had a bunch of guys who either went D1 or pro or whatnot. So it's like I was just one of many. You know what I mean? But you were at a higher level than that. You know what I mean? And how did that look? How did that describe that process?
The process was grueling. The training was 6 days a week. We had our practice with the school team, and the day started early and it ended late. You know what I mean? We finished school. We had our practice, 2 hours, come home, maybe take a nap, wake up, finish a little homework I got left over, and I'm back to the gym. I mean, it was swimming laps at the swimming pool at the local YMCA when I was growing up, in Pedro before we moved to Long Beach, and lifting weights and running sprints and, doing ball handling drills, doing one-on-one drills with my brother, a lot of shooting drills, working with my shooting coach, Des Flood, who passed away, who was B.J. Armstrong, shooting coach at Iowa before he went to the Bulls. So, I prepared. So when I got to the opportunity to prove myself, that was the easy part.
Okay.
It's like, I tell kids, do all your work before you get to the game.
Nice.
Then the game becomes easy.
Yep, absolutely. I want everybody to hear that again. Do your work before the game, right? And then you make it easy.
That's right.
I always try to reemphasize, because I have a lot of kids who listen to this. He has a lot of kids who listen to this, and we're both coaches and trainers and stuff. So it's like they need to hear this kind of stuff, man, because I feel my overall opinion, which is a good and a bad thing I've talked about on previous shows, social media has definitely changed the landscape of how the recruitment process works, how kids can get exposure. Some random Division VI kid in the middle of nowhere might actually get a shot now because we have these free platforms. But on the flip side of it too, though, it does make this misconception that everybody makes it, or it's easy, or you don't have to put in work, you don't have to prepare yourself. You know what I mean? Right. It's really a hard balancing act. So it's great to hear. I always try to appreciate when guests outside of me, because I'm coach, right? My kids are like, Coach always says this shit, right? I mean, he's coach. Other people get a chance to say it. I'm glad they got to hear you say that.
Absolutely, same message, different messenger.
Yeah, absolutely. You got anything, Mark?
One question I did want to ask also was kind of like listening to you earlier when you were talking about studying the game, and to me it just sounded like you were very obsessive, and coming from Southern California, I'm a Kobe guy. Kind of, not, you don't have to kind of go too much into detail, but like what you were saying, you got basketball practice, because I know a lot of my kids listen to this. What was your, cause I remember Kobe, he was in China, he did that one thing where he was like, wake up at 4 to 6, go back home, 8 to 10. Go back home, take a rest, 12, 11,
Right.
What was your schedule like? Was it really kind of similar to that, or did you have your own kind of schedule? How did you kind of break it down, through your high school career, especially that freshman and sophomore year where you were the best basically in the world, in the country?
Yeah, it was different because, being in school, they monopolize, in high school, they monopolize a lot of that time, morning to the evening. But I started my morning early, get to school early. If I had anything to finish up academically, I could knock it out before class, go through our day, midday, lunchtime, I'm going to the locker room. I was an introvert, so I'd be in the locker room watching tape, of game before, the night before, or watching a college game the night before, watching ESPN, getting caught up on all the scores. I mean, I was obsessed. I ate, slept, and what else. So for me, it was like, okay, this is my moment. All right, it's lunchtime. All right, I'm going here, get my food. I can sit down, I can watch my footage, get caught up on stuff, and have time to process the rest of my evening, because I knew, I had to prepare, practices coming up. I went to Mater Dei as a freshman and had an opportunity to play as a varsity player. Because
that's a tough school.
Yeah, I waited. I had to sit down for 30 days in front of a senior and outplay him in practice every day. So I had to annihilate him, because I said, you know what? I'm better than Josh, and shout out to Josh Porter, I love you, but I had to take those minutes. You know what I mean? So after practice, a 2-hour practice, I'm going home for 2 hours, maybe take a nap, get some food, do a little homework, and then I'm back to the gym again. So my day is really probably ending around 9 o'clock every night. Shower, obviously eat with the fam, and we're done, me and my brother. But it was a commitment, and it's a sacrifice. You got to make a decision. I tell kids, you got to know what you're getting into. You love the glamour of the sport, but you don't love the grind. You got to commit to both.
You're right.
You don't get the one without the other.
Absolutely. And that the man-child label. I mean, that became the nickname, right? That
Absolutely.
became your legacy, name of the documentary. It's funny because very few. That title to me has a lot of weight because very few are given that. You know what I mean? For us, like I said, for us in NorCal, it was Leon Poe. He became the man-child because we heard about this because I'm older than him, and we heard about this like 6'7", 6'8". Eighth grader about to come to Oakland Tech, and then I saw him. I was like, Jesus Christ, like this kid's younger than me, right? You know what I mean? Like it's a very distinguished label. With that being said, outside of what you just said, reflecting with Kobe and things like that, are there other guys you remember going against that could like you felt were like great competition or could rival you? I mean, who are any standout guys in your mind that you were like, man, me and this dude had some good battles?
Well, I mentioned Metta World Peace. I think his defensive prowess was unmatched at the time, and he was very skilled offensively too. So he could pass, shoot, handle, and everything. But he loved the defensive side of it. He wanted to lock you up. That was his whole thing. So I knew when we would play each other, I'm like, you're not gonna lock me up. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make you work too. So, but that's my man, Metta. Shout out to Metta. I love you, bro. A lot of guys quit at some point in the game, and you as a competitor, you can sense it. It's a lack of anticipation, a lack of intensity, and a lack of toughness, and you can see it in a person's eyes. After a while, it's like you keep coming at him and coming. Like, man, I got to deal with another half of this,
right?
So I would see that in guys, and then I just would really try to annihilate you because it was all about you got to have the edge, and it starts in your mind,
right?
And I tell people you got to win the battle before the fight.
Okay.
So that was big to me. I think Kobe and Metta met me on that level. But a lot of guys, they couldn't sustain, throughout the whole game.
Nice.
Did you play? I saw one thing on YouTube about you going up against KG, and like I don't know if that's true or not. Like how he's like 7 foot and you're over here bullying him. Like did that actually happen where you and him were going at it like that?
Yeah, I dunked on him 3 times.
Damn, okay.
Yeah. So.
Nice.
I mean, but he'll attest to it. It's not like I'm trying to show him up. I mean,
No.
He's on his show. He got his show
absolutely.
on TNT, I think, or what I can't remember the name of it. But he talks about these things, and he's telling people like, look, this guy was LeBron before LeBron. You don't understand. So, but when you don't have social media, it sounds like you're trying to convince people.
Right. No, but like you said, it's kind of cool to have your peers acknowledge what you're saying and like, this shit happened. Like, dude could ball. So
I can only imagine if you were around during social media. Oh my God,
I wouldn't have to be talking about it.
Right. You're right.
I
We
know.
might not have met you. Just be real. So, but that's really cool, man. And your perspective on it, just talking to you now, man, you seem to have a really positive outlook, and that's like I said, that's a blessing in itself. So moving on to, let's talk, gonna have a hot take. I like to always have let's say a controversial topic in terms of AAU. So I'm gonna ask your opinion about it. And obviously through the rest of the show, feel free to chime in on anything we're talking about. The biggest thing I'm noticing, and it's just becoming more and more rampant, I think we've talked about it multiple times, but I don't care. It still needs to be talked about, is the reclassifying.
Okay.
I think it's just getting completely out of hand. If a kid needs to reclassify for a year, okay, no sweat. Like, that happens. You know what I mean? Maturity, different things like that happen. But there's now stories of kids, there's like 17-year-olds in the 8th grade. You know what I mean? There's like 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds in the 7th grade, because the parents are like, well, reclass them. They'll do maybe 1 or 2 years at high school, right? Because the rule is the CIF rule, when they turn 18, they can't, unless it's during their season, they can't play high school ball anymore. And then the parents think, okay, they'll do 1 or 2 years of high school, then I'm gonna transfer them to a prep school, right? I don't see that as a sustainable business model or things like that, but I was curious on your perspective on it, if you've seen this type of stuff in the AU world.
I mean, I know double holdbacks, maybe triple. I think it's ridiculous, when I really think about it. But my thing is this: what happens if you get hurt?
Right.
And then your plan goes to what? Then what? You have no education. You have no real skill set, no real experience. So what happens to that child?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're kids at the end of the day. So for me, we came up in an era where it was kind of like, if you wasn't good enough, you just had to wait till next year, or you had to get better,
or you put in
find
work.
something else. Do something else. So it doesn't matter if you get held back another year. Yeah, you may mature more physically or mentally, but if you're not good enough, you're just not good enough.
Well, I'm glad more people need to hear that. What's your thoughts on it, Mark?
Nah, well, just basically what he was saying too. Like, if you're not good enough, it doesn't really matter how many more years. What was it? Who was it? Kyrie Walker. I think I could have swore like he was 20 years old the last.
Yeah,
couple
that was the
years.
running joke while he was in.
You know what I'm saying?
been in high school. He's like a 21-year-old high school senior or something.
Yeah.
Nobody knows, but he was still. It's just that's ridiculous.
So that's tough. And then I think I don't think he didn't get drafted, of course.
No, he didn't.
They got the G League, and I think he's playing on the G League team. But that's tough, you know what I'm saying, to just be in that type of situation, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Well, let's go to the NBA. So, because that's always fun stuff. Season's here. It's good to have a season back and see people in the stands. Shea, you got a favorite NBA team?
I always Lake Show, man, but I don't know what's going on over there right now.
You're with another
Still
Lakers.
early,
I was
man.
gonna assume the
Yeah,
Lakers, but we're definitely gonna talk about that one. That's definitely the storyline we gotta get into right away. Everybody obviously this juncture is like LA or Brooklyn, or LA and Brooklyn is gonna meet in the championship, and I'm a Warriors fan, okay. So I'm still gonna rock with my team. That's so right. and the way Steph just came out these early games, I feel confident. I feel pretty confident. But let's talk about LA and get into that a little bit. Is the Westbrook experiment, as we call it, as I call it anyway? Is it working? Because I don't know. I don't see it working.
Not right now, it's not. And I think he needs to be Westbrook. I think he needs to penetrate. He needs to look to push it in transition and make plays, and be the player that they sign. You know what I mean? And then everybody's chemistry will gel as long as they're willing to make the extra pass and don't play like for highlights.
Right.
Just play basketball. Play hard. I think it always comes together.
I think watching the Lakers game, what I think where they might have messed up on, and the Lakers front office is clearly an excellent office, so who am I to tell them they're not doing it right? But I think they needed another shooter. That's just me personally. I think they needed another shooter. They went more obviously veteran and big with DeAndre Jordan and Dwight Howard and Carmelo Anthony. You have a lot of length and a lot of size, a lot of IQ, no doubt. But I think they lose something in the shooting department because wait, isn't Avery Bradley with you guys now too?
They just signed him.
Yeah,
for defense.
I don't see a real legit catch and shoot guy. That new kid.
They had Caruso, got rid of him.
Yeah. You know what I mean. So I think they sacrificed their outside shooting ability to gain the veterans and obviously the star power. But LeBron is proven he's able to work with stars. So.
He's a genius, so he got to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. But on the flip side of it, though, Westbrook shows he doesn't play good with stars. So it's kind of two different sides of the same coin. So I don't know. We'll see how that one plays out.
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting. Then I wanted to talk about the whole Ben Simmons deal. My whole take on it, watching it manifest, I don't like how this trying to say this nice as I can. This fucking kid this kid comes across like a fucking spoiled AAU brat. That's just what I see in the way he's acting. Now, again, I don't know the inner workings of an NBA organization. I don't know what the Sixers front officers are doing, but I try to look at it in a reflection to his peers. Joel Embiid has been scrutinized year after year for the Sixers making it, not making it, the process, all numerous things. And even he still is capable of being professional, sticking by, his organization and just trying to do what's best, right, for basketball. Right. Ben Simmons to me is an interesting case study because to me he looks like the epitome of what like we talked about with the AAU entitlement. He to me looks like an embodiment of what that can manifest to in the pro level. So I'm just curious what you guys might think about that.
You want to?
No, you go ahead.
For me, I don't know, man. It just it's heart wrenching for me because I know how hard it is to make it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And he's there, and he's just
and you got opportunities, and you're already making millions of dollars.
Yeah, he's already paid. I mean, it's just
I don't understand the logic behind it. I mean, obviously he must know something that we don't.
Yeah,
because the way it looks, he comes across as spoiled, entitled, and like you want somebody to basically coddle you and caress you when it's a man's game. Like you're in the league, they're paying you to do a job. Do your job. If you're unhappy, then they trade it.
And like you said, think how hard you have to fight just to be one of those spots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's 400 plus jobs, right? And you got one of them,
Right.
and you're treating it like it's just whatever. You know what I mean?
They wouldn't have had to beg me to play.
Right.
You're guaranteeing the money, right? All right, cool. I mean, you don't have to worry about me. I'll be there early, stay late. But you have to be a competitor, and I think that's part of the game that is lost today. It's very skilled and soft at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you said that about the competitive side, because I saw something on Draft Express when Ben Simmons was in LSU. And, you know, they're talking about his strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, I saw that too.
And this just shows this.
The scout.
This is on a lot on the 76ers, where the biggest thing I saw, you see the 6'10", 225 point guard, and the thing that they put on there, a scout put, is lack of competitiveness. Wait a minute. If you an NBA player, that's to me, how do you draft somebody
I don't know, man.
and it says on their that's the biggest red flag, lack of competitiveness. It says something that if you talk to him a certain way, that he gets frustrated, and that's crazy, you know, as a trainer, talking to my younger kids, that's one of the main things I talk about, like the mental toughness part. And you have a kid right here, red flag, lack of competitiveness, and he still goes drafted. So that's, to me, that's like, come on, man, that's bad on the organization. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of tough. And on the other end of it too is, again, like we saw James Harden try to get himself out of Houston, but the thing is, he still went to training camp. That's the thing. You're a professional. Right. You still got to do your job. And so for him to kind of, you know, do what he's been doing, the way he's been walking, the prima donna kind of stuff, like, that's not right. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, that's my take on it too, is just, and now he's talking about, you know, and I don't want to judge him, because now he came back talking about he's going through some mental stuff. And you already know, when it comes mentally, if that's really true, then okay, then. But then at the same time, it's like his track record, it's like it's hard to believe him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If he's gonna use that now, you know,
And it can discredit those who actually deal with mental health
Exactly.
issues. You know what I mean? So
Which
it's
is
like
real,
that's
too.
always the walking line that I don't. You know what I mean? I don't like that either. So you know we just three guys in a room. Who knows if he gonna hear us? But I'm sure he's hearing it enough from everybody else. Like you know what I mean? Get everyone away from it. I wanted to talk about LiAngelo Ball.
Okay.
He's fighting, or he did get the spot with the Charlotte G League team, right?
Yeah. No, he got drafted.
He got that
14th.
spot.
Yep.
He's
That's
yeah,
dope.
you know, he's fighting for a spot, man. And I think the reason I think he's relevant, especially with having you here, is because he's showing perseverance, right? Yep. Which is something I think is kind of a theme for you in your life circumstances. You just kept going, you know what I mean?
Climbing the mountain.
So I thought he was pretty relevant to bring up. So I just want to give him his respect, because the Ball family clearly deals with a lot of disrespect. So,
but he's a marketing genius. He succeeded in the mission.
Yes,
so they can say what they want about him. And look, Jello is probably the least favorite out of the brothers, you know, and he has talent too. It's obviously not LaMelo and it's not Lonzo, but he has talent. I watched him in the summer league. He was scoring, hitting threes, you know, playing basketball. So it's just timing, I think, in the right situation for him, and I think he'll eventually land on a team.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree with you too. Wanted to talk about this. I found this interesting, just another NBA narrative. Dwayne Wade's son, Zaire, he got a spot on a G League spot. Two things. One, do you guys think it's because of his dad? Because he's part owner of that team,
the Utah team.
Yeah.
That has, I'm sure that has a little influence.
Okay, I agree too. No, I do. I'm not saying like I don't. But this is on the flip side of it. I don't think he's wrong for that shit. Me personally, because I'll be real. I got sons. Like if I got sons, and I have a chance to put my like if I'm on. I own this gym, or not, I shouldn't say own, but let's just say I'm part owner of this gym, right? If I can give my kid a job here, I'm gonna fucking do it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't
Absolutely.
think he's wrong for it. I was just curious what you guys might think.
People do it all day long,
Hell
Right.
And he has talent. It's not
Yeah.
like the kid's a bum.
Yeah, no.
You know, I think D-Wade is trying to probably correct some things that maybe he faced in his career and things that he's seen other players go through. He's like, well, I got a son of my own, so I want to set the record straight. Man, right. So kudos to him for being able to do it.
Exactly. To have the position to be able to do that,
Exactly.
right?
And it's kind of just like the Charlotte thing. Like, the reason why LiAngelo got drafted by the Hornets is because his brother is a baller.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it is and that's why I believe somewhere down the line, all three brothers are going to be together, because if you got one or two of those, and Lonzo's playing really good, but if you got one of them, just look at LeBron. Not saying that LaMelo or Lonzo's going to be like LeBron, but if you're good, the GMs are going to do whatever it takes to keep you happy.
Right.
So if that means that LaMelo's talking to the GMs like, yo, can you at least put my big bro on the G League team, give him a chance? Like, he would have never had that opportunity compared to anybody else.
Right,
So I feel like that's the big thing. And then with D Wade and his son is like, I feel like the biggest person who's pushing him is his dad. So it's like, I'm giving you this shot. So you know they're putting in work to kind of prove people wrong. So I'm not mad at that at all.
Nice.
At all.
This me personally want to give a shout out to my Warriors because we balling right now. So hopefully
play
we keep
tonight,
that going.
Sacramento.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, that's why
Here,
I wanted.
inside?
Yeah,
Yeah,
here
here.
at Sac. That's why I wanted to give them a shout out because
That's
I'm a true blue Warriors fan from when we sucked to where we at now. So keep doing your things, fellas. The last thing I want to talk about NBA wise before we move on to our last one or two questions. Did you get a chance to see like the top 75 list or whatever? I saw some of it. I didn't go through everything, but
Blasphemy.
there were some people for sure that I think belonged on that list that they didn't put on there. Dwight Howard's one. Me personally, they put, and this was an interesting take on it that I thought about too, and watching a few articles on it kind of hit home for me and pissed me off because when I played, I was more of a defensive guy too, shooter, defender, right? That was my thing. Anthony Davis got on the list, and Dwight didn't. And if you list their accolades, Dwight, way much more accolades, but his is obviously, I want to say, more lean towards the defensive side.
Right.
So it's like to me, it's like, how do I preach as a coach to my kids? Defense matters. Coaches recognize defense, right? Because let's be real, all the youth, they watch the NBA before they watch college. You know what I mean?
That's where they're going wrong to start, though.
Right, I know that.
Yeah.
We know that.
Right.
But that's just the nature of what it is. These kids, they're going to watch NBA highlights. They'll watch NBA highlights, ball is life highlights, street ball highlights, then maybe college. You know what I mean? Like that's just the order of it. But it's like, man, it doesn't help when I try to preach to my kids, pass the ball, be a good teammate, play good defense, work hard, grind it out. And a guy like Dwight Howard, who pretty much has done that, doesn't get on that list, but a guy like Anthony Davis, who basically said, I'm going to shoot and score and be the new age big and fully embrace it, gets on that list.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, man.
Dwight's track record of just
I think
personality.
that's what I was going to say. I want to say part of it, I think, is a personnel thing. You know,
it's not really about stats then at that point.
Yeah, at that point, it is not.
Three-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. Oh no, because at the end of the day, I always know, and we know this just because we're older and we see it for what it is. The NBA is a business. Yeah. You know what I mean? And business wise, it looks better to have certain players on that list and certain players
Politics.
I mean, there's a reason Kyrie wasn't on that list.
And Clay, how the fuck Clay not on that shit?
Yeah, he's
how
better.
is Clay Thompson not on the 75?
But because he hasn't, it's what have you done for me lately league. He hasn't played, so apparently he's not relevant anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just
it's cold like that.
It's an interesting study. So for a lot of you people out there and kids that are like, I want to play in the league, keep in mind, man, it's a business, fellas. Yep. So it's not always about the numbers. I wanted to get into respectfully disrespectful. It's a segment where we talk a little bit of AAU stuff that most people don't necessarily want to talk about, and then we'll get out of here because I know you got things to do as well. But one thing I wanted to touch on, especially with AAU basketball, and so many teams, so many coaches, and when you're a coach, you're in a position to mentor. I know that's a big thing you've been focused on for what you're currently trying to do. Like I went on your social media, heard a little bit of your podcast, and it sounds like you're just really invested in trying to help the next generation.
Absolutely.
Which is great because that's all me and him do. That's all I just happen to make a living doing it, right?
That's good.
But with that being said, there are a lot of coaches in mentor positions who aren't necessarily the best people. You know what I mean? Do you think there's got to be some that we need it as coaches, as peers, as a basketball community? We got to start holding our coaches to a higher standard.
Absolutely, because they're teachers. You know, the basketball coaches are teachers of the youth. The game of basketball needs to be taught properly from a fundamental standpoint. And the basics, when you stick to the basics, it always works. I think everybody's too enthralled with making the fancy play, the nice pass, and instead of making a simple jump stop, jab step, pump fake, you know, I'm doing side step, you're off one leg, same hand, and it's like, come on, man, we're in America, not Europe.
Right.
You know, you still got a guy in front of you he's probably going to be a tough defender. You're not just going to be able to do what you want to do.
Right.
And the triple threat is where the defense has to remain honest. And when you can break that down to a player and explain it to them, I think they can apply it. And when they see it work, that's how we can adapt to that change.
Right.
Until then, I think it's going to be more of showmanship type of basketball. And I blame the street ball era for a lot of the flashiness now.
Well, you think, and that is, well, because even thinking of that, street ball for us was, man, I mean, it was
the playground.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It was a cultural thing to it, too. Like of course, there was And One and, you know, Skip to My Lou and all those guys that got it on the national stage. But now you're right, because of the street ball culture now is so monetized, right? Because these kids, I mean, some of these dudes are making millions, you know, thousands of dollars playing at these parks and traveling all over the country. I mean, they're making serious money. It wasn't like that for us in our street ball culture. In our street ball culture, it's like you really had to play and build your rep. That's where you build your armor, right? Exactly. That's where you sharpened your knife. You know what I mean? Was out on the street ball court. And then high school ball, college ball, that was the show, right? You know what I'm saying? But now it's kind of all included. You know what I mean? The street ball's the show now.
Right.
But that's usually what it wasn't. You know what I mean? That was where you build your rep. That's where the OGs kind of said, all right, man, you're pretty good. You know, come out here and play with the grown men. We're going to beat you up a little bit.
Exactly.
So it's definitely changed. What's your thoughts, Mark? You got any?
It's social media. You know what I'm saying? It's social media. Like for me as a trainer, like I always try to focus on the basics. And I feel like as a player, players individually, you know, like the whole, you know, my business is GGT, God-given talent. Every player has their own God-given talent. So if you keep with the basics and you train fundamentally sound, that person individually with the gifts that they have, that's their flash. You know what I'm saying? And nowadays you see, because of social media and the kid can just go on their phone and see all this crazy fancy stuff. They believe they can do it, but that's not your game. You know what I'm saying? So to me, again, like what you were saying, it's all about the fundamentals. It's all about the basics. Like some of the greatest players in the world, again, I'm going to go back to Kobe because I'm a Kobe guy.
That's right.
Fundamentals. And he dominated simple. Yep. Like I remember I heard one of Kobe's trainer who was saying that dominate simple. If you can dominate simple, you can last. Yeah. So I think that's the main thing that kids kind of have to get back onto.
Well, that's the thing, like, you know, to piggyback on what you said, guys don't realize I was a problem at that 3-point line to guard. Like I'm jab step dunking you off of one dribble. If your defense is suspect, I'm by you. So I didn't need to have all the fancy moves because the fastest point between two lines is straight ahead. Okay. Yep.
Exactly.
And that's why I wanted to talk about that, because like coaches, I have a lot of coaches who hear my show too, and for the ones who are out there doing it the right way and trying to teach their kids and trying to, you know, show them the basics and show them, you know, let go of all that flashy shit, man. Like just go out there and play great basketball and the highlights will come. You know what I mean? Right. I just wanted to kind of speak on that because I've been around coaches that, I mean, man, I could tell you crazy stories if we had more time, but coaches that have like tried to tell their kids to fight other kids that are coaches that try to encourage their kids to reclassify 2 or 3 years, coaches that, I mean, they speak bad on it, but I think a lot of it can stem from just corruption and money though. You know what I mean? Because there's so much, shoe companies run AAU. It just is what it is. And because because now they have a personal investment, Adidas, Under Armour, Nike now have a personal investment in it. Yeah, that's when things get a little shady and backhanded. And then obviously the people that are getting the money exchanged are the coaches and directors. So you know, for coaches out there that are trying to stand their ground and make the ethical stance, man, I give a big shout out to you guys. So last thing I want to talk to you about before you get out of here. Well, you said you head back home tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, so safe travels on that.
Thank you.
Your tour, right? Where all do you plan on going, or where you trying to hit?
That's what we're doing now, Man-Child Grassroots Tour. We've got a couple dates back home, tentatively set. We have a college, a D1 right now, and then a high school in the LA area, and there's other interests. So
Okay.
we want to just build this. I mean, ideally, I want to have a Northwest swing that we do. You know, the next time I come back, I like to have like 4 bookings of different schools, public, private, and maybe a college or two. You know, and just really encourage people to come out. You know, today was a miss as far as the numbers, but the impact was definitely felt and made.
Nice.
We need the players as well as the parents to come to support, because they need to understand this is the other side of the spectrum that I'm showing. So maybe people are scared of the truth, but it's good for us. You know, I live in that space. I was taught and brought up, you know, I'm going to tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear.
Right.
You know, and that's something that the kids today need to really face. You know, face that constructive criticism and face your fears. Let's see what your weaknesses really are, because you don't know how good you are until you play somebody better.
Right.
Yep.
You're absolutely right.
Very true.
Well, Shea, I appreciate you coming to the show, man, taking your time.
Sir.
I know you got to hit the road and got other things to do. Also want to, before we get out of here, big shout out to those who've been supporting the Patreon. Got a bunch of new people that signed up. Brian, Crystal Betts, big shout out to Vance Walburn being on the last show. Coach Sam, Elijah Juan, Catalina, thank you guys for signing up and supporting the show. Also, again, Zenify, thank you for sponsoring the show. If you're looking for a web design, web page for your small business, go ahead and hit them up. Our next guest should be coming soon. Hopefully, that's Bobby Jackson, DTB Bout a Bag, and still got more future guests for you guys lined up. So please support, hit us up when you can. With all that being said, though, again, Shea, thank you for coming through, man.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
Great
fellas.
meeting you. Great meeting you.
Absolutely.
All his stuff will be in the links. I'll connect with you. We'll get all that stuff set up. Well, check him out. Check out his documentary. I'm gonna check it out for sure now that I've gotten a chance to sit down and talk with him. His story is amazing. If you need to, the links to his Wikipedia will be in there. I really think people just need to kind of see what you've accomplished, you know what I mean, and really look at that as a case study of, you know, how the formula of, like you said, you can do everything right, still might not work out, but you just keep fucking going, man.
Absolutely.
So, no, I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Mark, you got anything left?
No, man, it was a privilege having you on the show.
Appreciate you.
All right, we out.